Though the discussions on this podcast might be mystic, the language and themes can be anything but holy. On this episode, we're discussing the balance of practices that aid us in our daily spiritual maintenance. Hey y'all, I'm Grace, and this is Mediocre Mystic, the podcast where we explore how mediocre makes the world go round and how mediocre works in mysterious ways. Thanks so much for joining me. A holiday often provides a framework for us to find a focus in our sacred or humanist practices. As we turn our focus from any kind of themed focus to one of daily maintenance, I want to expand upon something Malia and I discussed on the Lunar Living show, and that is the balance in any kind of practice we take up. Whatever we may be cherry-picking that works for us, it is important to maintain the balance of being sure it is indeed working for us, that we are using the practice and not the other way around. When the practice uses us, we are on the path to fundamentalism. In my first episode, we learned the original definition of mediocre was not shitty, rather a hard-fought middle ground up a mountain pass. It helps us in self-care and, dare I say, self-preservation. Richard Russo says, by nature you instinctively seek out the middle road, midway between dangerous passion and soul-destroying indifference. You might say that midway is that hard-fought middle ground between valley oasis and pinnacle precipice. In other words, mediocre makes the world go round, y'all. This is the balance that gives us full perspective, from above on that pinnacle to below in the oasis. Also in that first episode, I told the story of a pretty dicey hike, one in which I could see incredible but heart-racing precipice perspective, and one in which I found rest in valleys that were level but provided me safety and comfort. The up of the dangerous passion and the down of the destroying indifference, so to speak. The peak of my hike, though, was that hard-fought middle of the mountain range where I found both, heights in the views and rest in the healing waters. We all have a toolbox, those things we go to aid us on our journey in mind, spirit, and body. On Mediocre Mystic, we're constantly adding to our toolboxes. Just as we might find that grip that feels just right on a handle, or adjust a chair or a table to suit our height, so too we pick up and choose and cherry-pick unashamedly the tools that work for us best. That's often dependent upon the situation, just as you use a hammer for building a frame and a paintbrush for creating on a canvas. In this case, we ourselves are our own project. Some things we'll use once in a special season. For me, that was knitting needles and running shoes. I know, it's all zen and shit, but y'all, I pushed and tried my best and never reached nirvana. However, I did get fit, and a nice scarf I'm proud I made out of it. So even on the path of discovery, when the tool isn't exactly perfect for us, we often still get the job done. And that's the brilliance of mediocrity. Making it work is often the practice in our daily lives. Somehow, mystically, we make it through. Then there are other tools we'll go back to again and again. One of those for me is etymology. Just as I mentioned in my first episode, as I'm revisiting now, I believe our words matter. Language is how we, as humans, bumble around and try to share ourselves with one another. Hell, it's what I'm doing here. It's always changing, and we're always honing it to make it make more sense and be more precise. And that's why I love to see how a word began and how it has traveled along in time, to meditate on how it applies to us in the here and now. The history of a word matters, the way that our own histories matter. The journey from where we were to where we are and where we're headed is one that's always changing, when we're always honing in on to live more comfortably in our own skin and truth. So then, how do we avoid the extremes of danger or destruction? We all know the answer here, right? Balance. We all also know moderation, for as benign as it sounds, can be quite a feat. It's often easier to allow a thing to consume us really, especially in times of coping like stress or grief, than when it stops working at the base level, we crave for more and more. Whether it's your favorite food or tarot cards. The irony is that instinct to find some peace and comfort can often lead to addictive patterns. The truth is, regardless of our inner life, the outer world is still there. Sometimes there's destruction around us, and sometimes those things need to be destroyed, for something new to grow. Regardless, we are going to experience the grief alongside the hope. Sometimes there's danger around us, and sometimes it can be an exciting danger that opens up our senses and reawakens us. Regardless, we are going to experience the fear alongside the exhilaration. That, in and of itself, is a balance of sorts. Balance in its simplest, oldest Latin form means two scale pans. I think of the way gold pans are shaken, sifting the sand from the true gold nuggets. The reality is, in life, we don't always get to choose what's put into those two pans. But we can shake the sand and decide what stays in to keep us balanced, allowing nothing to take us over. As we go through life, we will dip our pans in many waters in different places and seasons. We'll use different tools to sort and clean and shine, and even make those nuggets into new creations, as a jeweler does. It is in the practice of sorting the pyrite, or fool's gold, from the true gold that we find the mystic in our midst. Now that you've heard from me, I want to hear from you. Call or text me at 980-355-9665. Email me at mediocremysticpod@gmail.com. Visit mediocremystic.com and check out the show notes for links to social media and references from this episode. Coming up next, a series arc about success via the root of failure. Until next time, stay tuned for the messy moment of mystic in the midst of the muddled mundane.